The radio drama that you are about to hear is one in a series created to mark Prince Edward Island's 150 years as a Canadian province. It is set in Summerside, the principal service center of Prince County. As a result of the 1864 Charlottetown Conference, Prince Edward Island became the birthplace of Canadian Confederation. Yet when Canada was formally birthed on July 1st, 1867, only Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Quebec, and Ontario were founding members. PEI had rejected Confederation in favor of continuing to forge its own path of prosperity as an independent British colony. The island political environment remained tumultuous as the new Canada was still actively courting the colony. Government men, such as Summerside exporter and shipbuilder John Lefurgey, were firm in their stance that PEI did not need Canada. However, by 1873, John Lefurgey was singing a different tune as scandal nipped at his heels.
Answer the door, Dorothea, and rid us of that persistent ringing.
Good evening, Premier Pope. Come in. What brings you out on such a dark, dreary evening?
The need to speak with your confounded husband. Where is he?
Let me take your coat and hat. John is reading the newspaper by the fire in the parlor. Take yourself through.
Good evening, J.C. I sense you're not in a congenial mood this evening. Have a seat while I pour us a drop. It will warm you up.
I'm in a foul mood. This blasted island railway debacle continues to plague us. And you, John Lefurgey, are a big part of the reason why.
I am not alone in the blame that our government acted in haste back in 71 with the decision to build a railway from tip to tip. Had the contract been properly drawn up, the endeavor would not have thrown us into massive debt.
Well, as a shipbuilder, you pushed the railway so that farmers could deliver their produce more quickly to the island ports.
As did you. And how is that anything but a good business proposition, I ask? It all goes back to the contract, J.C.
The contract to which Lefurgey referred was between the island government and the railway builder. It stated how much money could be spent per mile in railway construction. However, it did not specify how many miles could be built. The loophole in the contract was advantageously used by the railway builders to lay miles of unnecessary track. It would appear at a rather blatant omission for government men accustomed to doing business.
Which forced me to crawl back to the Canadians and agree to join Confederation for debt relief. Islanders outside of Charlottetown didn't even want the damn railway, and now they're furious about being pushed into Confederation to pay off the debt we incurred.
They will forget their discontent quickly when the Dominion government finishes buying out the absentee landowners that have kept many islanders shackled tenants for 100 years. And, I might add, they will be pleased with the promised link to mainland Canada. So what are you fretting about, old boy? You should be celebrating getting us a better deal with the Canadians. Confederation was inevitable.
Well, now isn't the politician who held the no-terms attitude singing a different tune today?
I am a realist, J.C.
An opportunist like the rest of us is more like it, and I'm fretting about the fact that your dirty dealings around the sale of land for the railway could become public knowledge. The island press is sniffing around. I had a Patriot reporter, Mr. Thompson, asking questions just yesterday.
A number of islanders who were fortunate enough to own land saw in the building of the railway an opportunity to inflate the value of their land needed in its construction. John Lefurgey, who was a member of the government's executive council, had the knowledge and the connections to grease his palms.
I am one of the able men of the government. I have helped put certain politicians into office, and my support keeps them there. When it came to my land settlement, they were simply good enough to see justice done by me. The ruling class will not turn on us.
You forget, Lefurgey, that we have opponents in the moneyed and governing class. The government opposition is strong, and they want their turn in power, or as the common man says, at the trough. I plan to leave my position of Premier to run in this summer's election to be one of the first 6 island representatives in the Dominion government. I do not want your dealings putting me at risk with the voters. Facts just need to stay buried.
The press can speculate, but what can they really prove?
Our opponents will be eager to help them dig. Have we not done it ourselves?
I maintain that my compensation for the loss of land at my shipyard and the damage that resulted from it was rightful.
A man can convince himself of the morality of anything, as I well know.
If the press can uncover anything, which I doubt they can, it will be long after you are federally elected. Relax and drink your brandy, Premier Pope, before you go back out into the cold.
J.C. Pope was successfully elected to the Dominion Parliament in the summer election of 1873, but the island press, which consisted of a goodly number of newspapers that aligned themselves with various political interests, was moving in on the John Lefurgey story. It took until the fall for his name to make newspaper headlines.
Good morning, Mr. Edward. Is the editor in his office?
He sure is, Mr. Thompson. He's been bellowing for you for the past half hour. I don't envy you having to go in there.
It was reason enough to be late.
Get into my office now, Mr. Thompson.
Good morning, sir.
Stop hovering and take a seat. What have you found, Mr. Thompson?
You won't like it, but I have found that a gigantic swindle was carried out by a prominent leader of the Executive Council, Mr. John Lefurgey of Summerside.
Those are damning words against a prominent man who was a member of the Conservative Party. I need not remind you that the Patriot newspaper has always been good, or has always stood behind Mr. Lefurgey.
True. But can we turn our heads and silence our voices about the matter and still be seen as a reputable paper, sir?
I dare say not.
As a member of the Executive Council, Lefurgey is obligated to protect the interests of all islanders. So if it was his own interests he promoted, should he not be exposed?
Get to the point, man. What have you uncovered?
Yes, sir. As you are aware, John Lefurgey owns a small piece of land on the Summerside waterfront on which he conducts his shipbuilding. This business has made him a wealthy man. 3 years ago, the land in its entirety was valued at $1,000. 1/6 of an acre at the edge of the land was required for the railway line to pass through.
1/6 of an acre is roughly 7,500 square feet. That should not have cost much to acquire.
Even on the high side, a sufficient recompense would have been $200.
Was that not what was paid?
No, it was not. Nor was the settlement straightforward. Interestingly enough, the Land Appraisal Board resigned in April of 1872. Our Executive Council made no move to appoint a new board.
Are you saying there was wrongdoing in the government's failure to act?
Yes. By not appointing a new board, the government allowed our esteemed member of the government the opportunity to appeal his case for damages to the Court of Chancery.
Be damned. The Court of Chancery has long been used by the Executive Council for achieving obliquely political and or personal gains.
And in this case, the Chancery lived up to its reputation. The court appointed a commission packed with Mr. Lefurgey's friends, men like Darby and Holland, to name the settlement. But the government proved even more distasteful in its actions. When Lefurgey's case was heard, the government launched a no defense, thus failing in its obligation to protect the interest of the people. On the other hand, John Lefurgey was eloquent in promoting to the court the seriousness of the damages rendered him by the rail line cutting off a small jut of his property.
The settlement was no doubt handsome.
For the piece of ground worth $200, they awarded him $2,500.
That is bearable.
And that is just the beginning. For the incidental damages done to the remaining portion of the shipyard, they awarded him $5,000. And just in case the men employed in the yard shall be prevented from passing over the track, this unselfish gentleman received an additional compensation of $2,500. These are the naked facts, sir.
$10,000 in total. A most disgraceful transaction that will come off the backs of the people.
He has fleeced the people of this island, but he is just one of many sharks permitted to fatten on the hard earnings of the farmers of our country.
Don't forget the man who built his ships at low wages. Are your facts solid, Mr. Thompson?
Very solid.
There will be no justice for the people.
Only what you can give them through exposing Lefurgey in the press.
It is a sorry compensation for islanders who go without and are denied opportunity. The island has so many needs that will go undone because of men like John Lefurgey. Tell Mr. Edward to hold the press while I write a new editorial.
The editor of the Charlottetown Semi-Weekly Patriot, in his editorial of October 23, 1873, reprinted the following statement from the Charlottetown Herald, along with his own comments.
We believe that Mr. John Lefurgey has been awarded $10,000 for damages sustained by him by reason of the railway passing through his shipyard. This award is the most gigantic swindle in connection with the railway. Let us examine the matter a little further. No water privilege is taken away from Lefurgey. His shipyard is as serviceable to him as ever by building a few feet of breastwork along the front of it. Still, he is awarded at the rate of $60,000 for an acre of land in Summerside. We have no doubt that as one of Her Majesty's government, he will advise warrants for the $10,000 to be issued and paid over to himself. Most faithful counselor, most self-denying representative, most able and economic rulers, the actions of the man who once opposed Confederation are part of the reason we are now called Canadians.
John, oh my God, John, have you read The Patriot? They are saying disgusting things about you.
No worries, Dorothea. I'm like a duck in the rain. Their words will slide off my back. Now how about that brandy?
John Lefurgey was never held accountable for his betrayal of public trust as a member of the government's Executive Council, and no account of a public apology on his part was found.
The John Lefurgey Scandal, presented by the Wyatt Heritage Properties, Incorporated. Narrator, Stuart Smith. John Lefurgey, Josh Vrenz. Dorothea Lefurgey, his wife, Anne Farrell. James C. Pope, Premier, Stephen Hurst. Mr. Thompson, Javin Mayhew. Mr. Edward, Wayne Wright. Editor, Thane Clark. Foleys, Nathan Wiley, Jim Dixon, Scott McLeod. Musician, Alexandra Arsenault. Researcher, Jean McKay. Scriptwriter, Marlene Campbell. Recording engineer, Peter Gallant. Any errors in historical accuracy in the composition of the script are the responsibility of Wyatt Heritage Properties. This project has been supported by the Department of Canadian Heritage Building Communities through Arts and Heritage Program and the City of Summerside.